good spot for the story. Mondello Beach, one of the most beautiful beaches I've ever seen. Little bay here. Later on in the story, this mountain here becomes important. A Norman princess went up there and lived for 12 years, Saint Rosalia, and because some creepy guy was after her, she died up there. And then in the 1600s, in the middle of a plague, some guy had to weather a storm out up there and had a vision of her, and now it's the patron saint of Palermo because she got rid of the plague. But we'll get to that later. Just wanted to look at this crystal. This story leads off to the next big power that came from straight across the sea over there. And something happened on the other side of the rock and on the sea on that side. That's very important to the story, and that's the one we all know about so well. The famous, powerful Roman Empire began wreaking havoc all over the Italian peninsula, which is just out that way a little way. So the boot of Italy kind of goes right there. Over there is Campania, Napoli, kind of straight ahead. You go up more, you hit Rome, going that way. So, and then it is really close in the eastern half of Sicily by Messina, down on that side. Just doing a quick geography, real quick. All right, so the Roman Empire started conquering all of its neighbors in Peninsula Italy, just out there. And also in other places like southern France and Spain, actually all of France. And the Carthaginians here began to take notice about this growing power. So this at the time was a Carthaginian place still. Kind of mixed with Greek. It's complicated, we just talked about it. The Carthaginians took notice from their capital city of Tunisia, modern day Tunis, which is out that way a little bit. But this was Carthaginian territory, empire at the time, western Sicily. The decision was made for the Carthaginians to go on the offensive and go to war. Without going into too many details, well, I think I am going to go into details. This is good stuff. Alright, so the Punic Wars between 264 and 146 BC, there's 3 of them. Punic Wars. All kinds of crazy stuff happened on the island of Sicily, including massive naval battle right out there. Right on the other side of these rocks, actually. So the two growing superpowers, Carthage and Rome, went at it. Carthage was originally, they went on the offensive. The first of 3 of the wars started here in Sicily and lasted 23 years with heavy losses of life and large naval battles and small skirmishes throughout Sicily's rocky terrain, as you can see here, and also on the flatlands like here. Panormus was down there. So one super famous naval battle where large rowing ships, both Roman and Carthaginian, they went at it during this war. Right out there in the Tigrian Sea. And there's a bunch of crazy shipwrecks and cool stuff that have been found. Armor and pieces of the boats. So let's go over there and check it out, what it looks like over there. Okay, on the beach. The first Punic War. There was a Carthaginian general Matthias who attempted to retake Palermo several times. He actually had a large army, I'm not sure exactly where, but in one of these mountain tops that surround the city. And they were planning on storming it and retaking it, but it never actually happened. And they had to leave. Maybe they were a little nervous, I don't know. They thought they might lose. Matthias. All right, where am I here? Erase that last part. I had it mixed up. So we're in the first Punic War, and there was heavy battle, death all around Sicily, Carthaginians, Romans. Part of it was that Rome had a strong army, the Roman legions. The Roman Republic, by the way, this is before the Empire. And Carthage had a strong navy. So they both kind of equaled each other out. It was kind of like a stalemate in a way. There was just one defeat, Carthage would lose, Rome would lose. All kinds of people were dying on Sicily, man. It was probably terrible. And we're just having a nice little swim where all this stuff went down. And it's pretty crazy to think about when you're standing on history. Alright, so 254 BC. You have a question?
What sport is that?
Kids look like they're playing water polo in the ocean. That's pretty cool, actually. All right, 240 B. Let's see. Rome had a strong army but weak navy, and Carthage vice versa. In 254 BC, Rome stormed and took the city with a sizable fleet. So imagine Palermo, Panormus was right over there on the other side of this rock, the central city. There's probably little villages around here. Imagine the massive the Roman fleet coming in during the Punic Wars, right off the shore right here. Hundreds of ships filled with legions coming to storm and take the city, man. It must have been a crazy sight. Imagine if you're a local on this beach looking at that, seeing them come across the sea. So Rome, with this large fleet, took the city of Palermo, Panormus it was called, where it would stay pretty much for the next several hundred years. This was in the first Punic War, so they captured the city. But there were several fights for the city of Palermo for decades before this capturing in 254 BC.
You forget actually made it from Syracuse. It was a famous mathematics.
Oh yes, I filmed that at a different part, but you're right.
A lot of Roman ships by making mirrors from metal.
Syracuse. They couldn't see because of the sun.
He collected the light and showed the sails of the Roman ships. And many Roman ships were destroyed like that.
That's
So,
yes, I have, yes. Archimedes, of course. Thank you. He knows his history. Yeah. Well, that's more on the other side of Sicily. But yes, you're right. I'm local. All right. But I had some help. I think he might have been German, but a guy from Syracuse, Archimedes, a mathematician, he told me. Help out the Carthaginians. Okay, so Western Sicily was fought over for decades over here. Romans slaughtered a bunch of people and took over, and the Greek and Phoenician and Carthaginian subjects had to submit. Carthage made some attempts several times, bringing some armies into the mountains around here, attempting to retake the city, Panormus, but they were ineffective. The Roman legions kept them out. Carthage totally withdrew, and Roman general Matthias defended this city. And Carthage in 247 BC withdrew from Panormus and Palermo for good. The city was forced to become loyal to Rome. They were given a special access of a mint, and yeah, that kid's surfing out there, pretty cool. They were given a golden eagle, and it was like stamped as, it was fought over for 23 years. And is now part of Rome. It was the first, actually, outside of continental Europe and Italy, the first province was Western Sicily. This was still in the Roman Republic times, though. Not quite an empire yet, but it wasn't over, though, between the bitter rivals, the Romans and Carthaginians. It was basically a stalemate, though, the First Punic War, and Carthage was forced to relinquish all of Sicily, and it became a Roman province, like I just said. The city, Palermo, gained praetor status. All right, this is what I was trying to explain. This is what I can never remember. Praetor status, earning a golden eagle, one of 5 Sicilian free cities, and began minting their own money with some autonomy. There were some heavy naval battles just off the coast of Palermo with large ramming rowboats, like I said, right over there. Some incredible artifacts like helmets, swords, carvings, pieces of the boats, and more have been recovered by divers and displayed in museums, which I saw, which were really cool. A German man over there told me about a Greek mathematician, Archimedes, which everyone's heard of. I guess he was working for the Carthaginians with the invading Romans. I'm not sure which Punic War, check the comments. But a lot of these naval Roman ships went down because he made a device of mirrors that reflected the sunlight so they couldn't see, or it caused a fire. That's pretty crazy. All right, so Sicily was lost by Carthage, but they still had their power in North Africa, some other areas like Spain. So the Second Punic War was much bigger and a lot more fighting happened. Also again in Sicily. Punic War II. More foreign fighters and locals were dying on the island. So the Carthaginians had a bunch of Berbers and Libyans and different mercenaries and different people in their armies. So there was all kinds of interesting things going on. It was a real mix of people. Rest in peace. This area was stained with blood, man. It's crazy to think about. And people think 2020 is the worst year ever. Try living through the Second Punic War. Okay. Of course again. So some of the Romans, though, they even switched sides. There was a lot of like disloyalty. They would go to the Carthaginian side if things were going bad, or some Carthaginians would try to join Romans. It's really strange. But like I said, the blood of these times still stains the land, and several slaves, so local people, women, children, lots of men, fallen, soldiers that lost, or they were captured on both sides of this war. So all kinds of people were shipped out to live a life of enslavement, which we all know is pretty rough. They vanished from their previous lives from the island of Sicily. I couldn't find any record of any direct effect of the Second Punic War in Palermo, but likely there was some because of its low-lying location. Like, look at these mountains. Think about how hard it would be to have an army with horses going through these mountains. So the battles in Sicily was a lot more naval-based, and boats pulling up on low-lying areas like this is where a lot of the action happened. But the course of the war is worth mentioning. There was a revolt within the bruised Carthaginian Empire back in Tunisia, sparking off this Second Punic War, led by Master General Tactician Hannibal. He decided to lead his army to get revenge for the loss of Sicily in the First Punic War, with his army and even war elephants all the way into Spain, through the Alps of Italy, through the snow, and attack Italy straight up from the north, which was insane. The Romans were shocked when this happened. They nearly took Rome. They got really close, so it was another brutal affair, 218 to 201 BC. This includes Rome's biggest military loss ever. The Battle of Cannae in southeast Italy, where 50,000 Roman legionary soldiers were killed, 20,000 captured. They were encircled. And it's a little slippery there, huh? They were encircled in this battle. You know, this guy was a master general, Hannibal.
Oh!
It was really...
Ooh, she already fell twice.
They shouldn't go out there. It was really terrible. But this was, again, not here in Italy. But an entire Roman legion, an entire army basically was wiped out. The few survivors were banished actually to Sicily by the Romans for the remainder of the war. So they got, you know, kicked out of the army basically, and they go down to Sicily and guard it or something. You're done for such a humiliating loss. This was a big blow to the Romans, that battle. So it was going back and forth in Italy. Hannibal was taking areas and setting up winter camps, and oh, it was just crazy, man. So the Romans somehow bounced back though and battled on, and the war slogged on, leaving Hannibal stuck and maneuvering around Italy. So Hannibal and his army would move around, and the Romans would take one place, and all this stuff would happen. Rome attacked and took Syracuse in the east of Sicily, but it was a costly battle. So I guess Carthage retook Sicily in the east for a little while. The general, again, Marsyas, who won that battle in Syracuse, though, he stripped the city of its wealth and art, bringing it back to Rome. This is thought to be the start of the Romans' obsession and copying of Greek art and religion, people think. So Syracuse was a big Greek colonial place. So they had all the gods and goddesses in their temples and all kinds of amazing stuff there. They sided with Carthage. It's a long story. It doesn't have to do with Palermo, so let's keep it moving here. By 210 BC, all of Sicily was back in full Roman control. So, like Italy, they were losing areas or gaining areas. Yes, all right. Eventually, Rome launched a counter-offensive into Tunisia. Not called Tunisia, obviously, Carthage. In 204. All right, so they launched an offensive 204 BC. By 202 BC, a guy, Scipio Africanus, he had defeated Hannibal's army a bunch of times in Italy. He went into North Africa, and Hannibal was just short of getting to Rome itself. So Hannibal was forced to return home because of this new invading army to defend the homeland of Carthage. This huge naval battle that happened out here, it could have happened in the Second Punic War, I'm not sure. And there was several others all in these seas everywhere. And also that guy Archimedes, he might have been a Syracusan during that part. Probably was, now that I think about it. Alright. So there was a final battle in the Second Punic War in a place called Zama in modern day Tunisia between the two. With Carthage and their, I forgot about these people, the Numidian allies. So they were like sub-Saharan African, dark skinned people. Numidians, they're a real interesting culture. Anyways, the Numidian allies, the Carthaginians, and their war elephants lost this battle, losing up to 25,000 men, and Carthage agreed for peace after another 17 years of total war, including here in Sicily and Palermo. Years later, with Carthage weakened, but still in existence, Rome decided to end this rivalry forever and quash any chance of the former superpower coming back. They had a lot of problems with Carthaginians and their religion. Carthaginians actually had this horrible thing where they sacrificed babies and they threw them into a pit of fire. It's not funny. I laugh to make myself feel better. But they think it might have been Roman propaganda that they to like get people to hate them who don't want to fall in the river. You know, propaganda is true now, just like in those days. But they likely had some horrible human sacrifice part of their religion, the Carthaginians, which happened on Sicily because it was part of Carthage. human sacrifice, ooh, that's a whole nother video. All right, I'm going on a tangent here. So 143 BC, after these first two terrible wars, Rome launched an offensive again from here in Sicily. And there was 3 years of battles, all in North Africa this time, so none in Italy, none in Sicily. And it culminated in the sack, destruction, and slaughter. God, this is just terrible stuff. The slaughter of most of the population of Carthage, modern day Tunisia. So okay, I guess I did go into detail about the Punic Wars, but we're really close to where a lot of this stuff went down, so it has to do with Palermo. This completely changed the structure and tactics of the Roman military and really the course of the world, if you think about it. If these Punic Wars went a little differently, who knows? It's like one of those moments where if you go back in time and change something, everything would be completely different. Who knows? Everyone on this beach maybe would be speaking a completely different language. It's one of those moments, man. It's like these wars, this was so super important. Changed the course of history. Right here, 2,200, 2,300 years ago. So Carthage, though, they didn't leave any chance for them to bounce back. They killed everyone. The ruins are still there in North Africa. I hope to visit them someday. Rome became the sole superpower in the Mediterranean, where they would remain for the next 6 centuries after this. So the battle of the two superpowers was over, and a lot of that happened right here. Beautiful beach, though, huh? Woo! 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 Different vantage point on the sea here. This is something called the Tyrrhenian Sea, which is the part of the Mediterranean north of Sicily up to the west coast of Italy, and on the other side is Spain, Barcelona, and Marseille and Monaco and stuff like that. Anyways, if you go straight out that way, you hit coastal Italy, southern Italy's right there, Campania. You keep going down that way is Rome. Keep going. If you head real straight down that way, you would hit like real northern Italy coast. I forget what it's called. Toscana, I think. And then, if you keep on going that way, you'd hit France, Monaco, stuff like that. If you made a left, you'd hit Spain. And it's not just the sea, it's this. That's incredible right here. What do you think?
Very cool.
The Tyrrhenian Sea I hear mountain goats. Bah. I feel like this is the way this looked for 3,000 years, 20,000 years maybe.
Alex Traeger's mom would like this.
Except for this little path. Alex Traeger's mom would like this?
She's a birder.
Yeah, there isn't that many birds here, but there's a few. Look at that blue water. Whoa. The Tyrrhenian Sea. Sicily. Lots of pirates in all eras used to be out in these waters. What's the point of Sicily?
I think so. This was just some stuff, the World War II, and this was just what I read off of TripAdvisor.
You know, that could be true. I think you're right. I like that. Northernmost point of Sicily, north side. Interesting place we found here. Woo, beautiful, man, crazy. All right, so this area of this park is where a lot of what we talked about of that Punic, Phoenician, Carthaginian, Greek history. This area was the center of the ancient city. It's now a park with a bunch of palm trees. That looks really cool. But we were just on the ocean talking about the Punic Wars and Carthaginian history. So this was also the center of the Roman city of Palermo, which surprisingly there's not a lot of ruins left, you know, compared to other Roman cities. This is pretty much it. There was a villa here, they believe. There's some pillars, and there's a small mosaic on that side. This is pretty much it. So we're going to talk about this story here. Western Sicily was the first Roman province ever outside mainland Italy. After the Republic first took it in the Punic War of 240s BC. And then the kingdom of Syracuse was left independent, but as like a vassal state. Come look at this mosaic. So this is classic Roman artwork, very similar to Pompeii and Rome and all over the place. Algeria, they found it, mosaics like that. So this was likely some villa of the city of Palermo. All right, so we talked a little bit about Syracuse in a battle with the Romans. What kind of happened, they kind of were Greek people that were caught on both sides of the Carthage-Roman thing. So they were a kingdom of Sicily at first. They were left independent, forced to be an ally, but then Rome took that part of the island after the Second Punic War, which we talked about, 212 BC. So this was now the province of Sicilia in the Roman Republic, where it would endure for the next 600 years. The cities, though, had some degree of autonomy, like Palermo here, where this is pretty much all that exists now from Palermo. Although I have seen Roman bricks and different pieces. Woo, it's windy, can you hear me? Roman bricks and pieces of Roman architecture scattered around the city that was probably repurposed or built up upon. It's very crazy how they did this. It seems like Palermo was just kind of hashed together from previous eras. All right, so some interesting things that happened in the province of Sicily was in the 100s BC, there was a huge slave uprising that caused two things called the Servile Wars. So there was a massive amount of slaves on the island of Sicily because of its closeness to other areas of the world on the Mediterranean. And the first war was in 134 to 132 BC. It was, you know, the slaves were pissed off about their mistreatment. And part of the war occurred here in Palermo. And a slave army successfully beat the Roman legions a couple times in some skirmishes. But the slaves, 20,000 strong army, were crushed and crucified like Jesus. Ugh. So that was the Servile War during the late Roman Republic, which, remember everybody, we look at a cross and everyone prays and everything, but many tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people were executed using that by the Romans. It's kind of, when you think about it, it's kind of a crazy thing, including one man, Jesus Christ. All right, I went on a tangent a little bit. So these are Roman ruins here, Palermo, and the Servile Wars happened here, and we're going to take a break.